Interesting developments are breaking down right there at the auditorium. A little bit of back and forth, and we're just trying to establish what's the cause of the altercation, even as police officers, security agencies are trying to disperse the crowd that seems to be at loggerheads. A little bit of shoving happening right there. But remember, earlier on, Abdi Guliye, Commissioner, broke down the House rules in terms of who exactly is allowed at the floor of the auditorium. The party agents were allowed inside. The chief agents, as well as members of the media. They're indeed trying to limit the flow of people into the Bomas of Kenya. But right now, tension seems to be high. A little bit of altercation noted, as you can see on your screen. And we're definitely trying to establish the cause of the back and forth, even as security agents and members of the IEBC are trying to establish normalcy in order for the counting, the verifying process to continue. Remember, these are scenes at the Bomas of Kenya, unfortunate scenes, I must say, even as there seems to be a back and forth between various agents, an altercation arising. But as you can see, security agencies are definitely there to try and quell the situation and bring normalcy in order for the tallying process and the verification process to go on. There you have it. Temperatures are coming down, as it seems, and we can see some representatives of the Azimio coalition perhaps making their way outside that particular area and still airing his grievances. We're yet to find out what exactly is the cause of concern.
To the nation that Bomas of Kenya is a scene of crime.
And perhaps could we listen in to what exactly is happening on that particular side? To be a happy man. Remember, he's the chief agent of the Azimio coalition, and he seems to be disgruntled in terms of the state of affairs within the Bomas of Kenya. We're trying to establish a link with our men and women on the ground just to find out what the chief agent seems to be angry about. Remember, they're allowed, the chief agents, the party agents, and equally members of the press, some international observers, local observers, are equally allowed within the Bomas of Kenya. But one of these chief agents seems to be disgruntled about a certain issue that's playing out at the Bomas of Kenya. And of course, we are trying to find out what is the issue, the source of the altercation. And I understand Rita Tinina, our senior reporter, has just joined us via way of phone. Rita Tinina, we're looking at the scenes characterizing the auditorium at the main tallying center that's at the Bomas of Kenya. We know you're there. What exactly seems to be the main issue? Because we've seen one party agent, throw hands in the air, signs of not being content with the state of affairs at the Bomas of Kenya. What's happening, Rita?
Well, Jesse, we haven't established yet why these agents, politicians allied to the Azimio la Umoja side, why they are agitated. This is the third incident in the last 2 hours. Initially, they just began chanting, saying Chir Chir Sumkuli, Adan, and then now they were chanting Chief Agent, and one of their agents then went to the podium and announced that he said that he wanted to inform the nation that the Bomas of Kenya is a scene of crime. Earlier on, they had engaged the police, were trying to bring down the barrier that has been put around here, cordoning off the area where the IEBC officials, the returning officers, as well as the presidential agents are tallying the votes. But police have been beefed up here, the security has been beefed up here on the floor of the auditorium, but it appears they are still yet to calm down. the shouting continues. They're complaining about the chief agent, about Chirchir and about Sunkuli. Why they are complaining, we are not sure yet. Remember, such things earlier on in the day, the IEBC, the commission, then had announced that it was going to restrict the number of people and the categories of people who will be accessing the auditorium. But still, those who are not returning officers, they are not presidential agents, and observers have still found their way here. The auditorium is quite full compared to previous days. Today we have not seen many of the politicians from the Kenya Kwanza team, but those who are here are just seated on the left side to where the politicians from and agents from the Azimio la Umoja are standing and chanting chief agent. So just we are trying to establish what exactly is the issue here. We haven't yet. We just know that they are not happy with the chief agent, and they are not happy with Chirchir, and they're not happy with Sunkuli. So we'll be informing you once we get those details, Jesse.
Okay, Rita Tinina, Our Lady on the ground, just informing us perhaps about what exactly is happening inside the auditorium at the Bomas of Kenya. But as you can see, a scuffle seems to have ensued at the National Tallying Center. This not being the first time, as Rita Tinina noted. We've seen a standoff ensue at the Bomas of Kenya a little bit earlier on. I think it was yesterday, where a strange electronic device was allegedly spotted. Of course, even today, we had from one of the commissioners, Abdi Gulie, who had to announce changes in terms of access to the Bomas of Kenya, where he highlighted that the National Tallying Center will only allow agents, people who will assist the agents, the chief agents, the deputy chief agents, and clerks on the floor of the house. And perhaps that's why you can see a barricade right there, where security officers who are uniformed are actually, barricading those Kenyans who are seated observing the tallying process away from the main center, where some of those tables are centered. The 12 plenary tables, as we understand, are centered. So those are scenes right now in terms of the scuffle that has just ensued. We're still trying to find out what exactly the Azimio camp seems to be strangled about, because we saw the chief agent, the Azimio chief agent, Saitabao Ole Kanchori, vividly not a happy man. And his role as a chief agent at the Bomas of Kenya is quite instrumental in terms of the verification of votes. So we'll definitely gather more information in terms of what's happening at the Bomas of Kenya to keep you updated, even as it's barely 30 minutes to midnight. And that marks even less time for IEBC. Remember, they have that constitutional timeline of 7 days since the day of the election. That timeline will be expiring on Tuesday midnight. And so far, as to what we have gathered, roughly 190 constituencies remaining in terms of verification and official announcement of the presidential results. Remember, this happens once they compare the Form 34As and the Form 34Bs that have come from the respective polling stations and constituencies. The physical forms are compared with the scanned images, and once the numbers actually match, the tallies actually match, hence, that's when we see the commissioners release the numbers. But you can see representatives of Azimio, I think that should be the Kisumu West Member of Parliament-elect Rosa Buyu, just having a conversation. Maybe not too heated, but you can see pointing of fingers and whatnot, showing signs of a scuffle, discontentment in one way or the other. But security officers are definitely present, and you can see them just trying to calm down the situation, which seems already calm.
Wamenihamisha tena kwa Jesse.
All right, so we'll definitely figure out what exactly is causing the altercation that we've witnessed at the Bomas of Kenya auditorium that happens to be the main tallying center. Remember, our colleagues are definitely pitching camp at the main tallying center, and we'll cross over in just but a few. But allow us to shift focus to matters of peace. And remember, this has been the message repeated over and over again, even as Kenyans are waiting with bated breath for the official results to be announced in terms of the presidential ballot. But away from that, just today in Matters Peace, the National Council of Churches of Kenya, abbreviated as NCCK, released a statement, and they had a talk with members of the press in terms of the importance of upholding peace. Let's just listen.